You have a couple of film cameras that you haven't used since 2005. It's hard to find a lab to develop and scan the film for you. And you're worried about the costs. Let me tell you that developing color film and scanning at home is quite easy. To remove your excuses and get you going, I'll take you through the full process using CineStill C41 development kit, followed by scanning and editing in just over an hour with no fuss and no mess. Let me introduce you to the entire film development kit. These are plastic jugs, which are much better than glass because they're easier to clean. They're slippery. This is a bottle opener. It's used for opening the top of the film rolls. Then when you take the film out, you put it into this Paterson tank. I'll show you how to put the film into the tank later. This is an analog thermometer with Fahrenheit and centigrade. This is an optional sous vide, which is used for keeping water warm, but you can also use the thermometer to gauge the temperature manually. This is another interesting optional item, which is a film tank rotator from Alibaba Express. Just set the time and it rotates the film in the tank. It's very convenient. I suggest you buy one. Timing will be in accordance with the CineStill manual. Okay, you'll get one of these plastic tubs from the supermarket and put into the sink. That insulates the heat better. We want to do this in real time and see how quickly we can do it. I'll take the premixed chemicals from the cupboard here as they're kept in the dark. Put them in the tub, then fill it up with some warm water. We're trying to achieve approximately 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which we can measure manually with a thermometer. If it's a bit more, like 115 or 120, it really doesn't matter because we're just trying to warm it up. The aim is 104 degrees Fahrenheit. When we reach that temperature, we'll stop. So let's see. It's almost getting there. Right now it's about 110. Let's put the sous vide in there to keep the temperature. The sous vide is already preset from the last time I used it. It's set for 110 degrees to speed up the heating. In the meantime, let's set up our rotator. This uses low voltage, so it's okay to be near water. Just plug it in. Alright, so the chemicals are gradually heating up. Now let me introduce you to the chemicals. This is a developer with D written on the cap. This is B for Blix, which is a combination of bleach and fix. Blix. This is S for stabilizer. Watch our video on how to correctly mix these CineStill chemicals in a few minutes. You put the thermometer in the developer because that's the first chemical to go. This is going to take about 3.5 minutes to develop. This is the instruction manual from CineStill. It comes in the box. Feel free to take a screenshot. Temperature is now okay. 1 minute or so before the development, we have to do something else. We have to take some water from this tub and measure the temperature. If necessary, add cold water or hot water to make it exactly 104 degrees. It comes down to exactly 104 in a couple of seconds. We use this water for film pre-soak. Pour the water in and fill the tank. This pre-soak raises the film temperature to the required level before the developer goes in. That helps with the consistent results. About a minute should be fine. Just rotate it a couple of times to make sure that all parts of the film are completely soaked and raised to the temperature required. We're trying to keep the development temperature and time very accurate. The rest of the chemicals don't matter very much. Okay, so the 1 minute pre-soak is done. Pour the water out. There's a little bit of light pink or light orange color comes out, washing something off the film. Then we pour the whole of the development into the tank. This process might take about 10 to 15 seconds. Okay, put the cap on nice and tight. Rotate immediately so that the film is fully covered. Now probably about 30 seconds has gone into the process. I'll set 4 minutes for the development time after the initial rotation, and I'll tell you the reason in a minute. Alright, that was half a minute to get it going. The actual recommended time for CineStill C41 is 3.5 minutes for fresh chemicals. I set aside 30 seconds for messing around with pouring liquid in, closing the lid, and doing the initial hand rotation. Each tank takes 2 rolls. These are the 5th and 6th rolls in the same chemicals. You're supposed to add 5% additional development time as the chemicals weaken. If you calculate all of that, 3.5 minutes becomes 4.5 minutes. I'll take out the sous vide, and as they say, clean up as you go. By the time we finish this, the kitchen is exactly as we started. No mess, no fuss whatsoever. The next one, of course, is Blix. So we'll get ready for it once the rotating machine stops. Okay, time's up. Empty out as quickly as it goes. Keep the developer away from its enemy, which is Blix. One drop of Blix cancels a lot of developer. Pour the Blix as fast as it goes so that the film development is stopped instantly. It's pretty much safe now, but I follow by some rotations to make sure all parts of the film are covered. This one is recommended to be about 8 minutes, for fresh chemicals that is. And these are not fresh chemicals, so we'll make it 9 minutes. The exact timing is not very critical, as it is for the developer. Alright, while that's doing its job, we just tidy up, put away the developer, not a drop to be wasted, no mess, no fuss. Bottles with a wide neck are very useful for this. Funnel is not required. Okay, time's up. We'll pour out the Blix. The exact timing from here on is not super critical, so we can take our time. Film is now developed, and I would say it's probably viable. What we need to do is to wash the Blix, which is a nasty chemical, off the film. The usual guide is to fill up the tank and empty it about 7 times. Once you pour water in, you can use this handle to rotate the film in the tank. I've left the cap off while doing this. I'm not going to waste the water in the tub either. I use it for washing the Blix. We can even take out the film spool and look at it. Yeah, it's viable. You can see from the color that it's well developed. Here's the running water for the final rinse, like a washing machine. This goes in the orange juice bottle and back in the cupboard. I use the same water to wash the jug as well. No need to waste any water. Next, the stabilizer has a consistency of diluted dishwashing liquid. It only requires 1 minute. It creates a lot of bubbles as you pour it in, so I try to pour it right in the middle to reduce the bubbles. This allows the stabilizer to wash over the entire surface without fighting with the bubbles. Rotate a couple of times. Since I'm doing it with the open top, I don't rotate the whole tank. So it's good enough to tap it on the edge of the sink so any remaining bubbles rise up to the top. This takes about 1 minute only, but it's not strict. Now, time to pour it out. It usually comes out a pinky color, and every time you use it becomes more pinky. The film is nicely developed, and we can see it through the browny orange background. According to CineStill, the process is finished, but people who've done this before know very well that it's not finished. There's another process after the CineStill, and I'll show you. What you need is to pour some more water into the tub and use this thing called Kodak PhotoFlow, or equivalent, which is used for creating streak-free dry film. You don't want watermarks on the film after it dries. So about 1/4 of the cup, or even less, just a few drops of it, will be enough. It's for one-time use only. Drop it in and mix it with the spool itself. 1 minute will do. Finally, the stabilizer goes into the cupboard, ready for the next time. It's all done and we have finished with all the chemicals. Are you watching the time? So far it's only 40 minutes. Less time than get into the car going to a lab. Now we get a chamois in preparation for wiping the film to make it dry faster and even more streak-free. Take out one of these spools from the core tube. Don't lose that ring. Rotate the discs against each other and the film will be released. Pick up one edge and let it drop down. Not to touch the ground, of course. Look, the film is developed so nicely. That section must be the night shots and these are the day shots. You can wipe from both ends if your arms are short. See the chamois sliding down? My arms are quite long, so I can go all the way to the bottom. It's done. Streak-free and beautiful. Now, off to the bathroom to hang it up for the final drying. Since we're in a hurry, I'm going to speed it up with hair dryer. See, 2 hooks for each strip. To keep the film end secure, you can fold it back and give it more grip. Dryer is optional. You can leave it overnight to dry naturally. Finished with 12 minutes left of 1 hour. Film is now ready. The film we just developed has been put into the sleeve and ready to be scanned. Pick up one of these strips, look at it in the light and try to determine which way is the right way. If you can read the name of the film, for example Kodak Portra 160, that side of the film goes down on the scanner. Take this film holder which comes with a scanner, which on this occasion is Epson Perfection V600 Photo. You put the film in the way I mentioned. It's useful to put on latex gloves, since you can freely put your hands on the film, push it in or out without leaving thumbprints. Then get one of these rocket blowers and literally at the last moment blow air both sides and get rid of your enemy, which is dust. This enemy is everywhere, waiting to attack you, so you get rid of it at the last moment before scanning. The film holder goes only in one direction and no adjustments are necessary. Close the lid quickly before the dust settles on the film again and go off to the computer and use the scanning software. I'll be using SilverFast 9, which is a full-featured software. As the software is loaded, the results of the last scan come up by default. We have to choose new settings as the last film scanned was black and white, but now we want color negative. We go for this setting on the top left, 48/24-bit. Set the resolution to about 3200 dpi. You can leave everything else as default. First, we have to do a pre-scan. Pre-scan is a low-resolution scan of the entire film strip to be able to verify where the shots are, so the quality that comes out in the pre-scan is no indication of what's going to come out later. The red outlines that you see are supposed to be the location of the scan that's going to be done of each frame. You can manually adjust the boundaries or you can get it done automatically. Click and drag gives you a frame. Click and drag another frame, and every time you do that, it auto-adjusts the color and exposure. But another way to do it is you go to the menu and select Find 35mm frames, and it will automatically detect the frames. Good. It has adjusted all the exposures as well. Don't worry about some of these pictures being upside down. That's the way the film has been put in. If you want to see it the right way around, no problems. You can rotate it left this way one more time, and now it's the right way up. If you want to be super precise, and I recommend you should be, click this navigator. It will blow up that particular frame, so I can fully adjust the left, right, top and bottom frames to be just inside the frame. That's highly recommended. What that does is it avoids the black border, therefore the exposure will be much more accurate, and even the color will be much more accurate. So just go a little bit inside the frame. Don't pick any black whatsoever. I'll speed through this. Click this button to go back to the full view. There are a lot of other settings, but I recommend that you skip everything else and leave them as default. Right now, our task is to get the satisfaction of a quick high-resolution scan without worrying about all these features. Choose one of these pictures. Doesn't matter which one. Check that the resolution is what we want, which is 3200 ppi. You don't touch any of these other settings. On the NegoFix menu, you can choose the right film from the list. If your film is not there, don't worry. Just go for the other setting. It gives you a very reasonable scan. All the scans are from the same film roll. We go to the frame, copy settings to all frames. It copies all the settings instantly. Now, if I go to this other frame, it should be exactly the same, so resolution is the same and NegoFix is the same. Go to the batch scan. This comes up. It gives you some settings if you want to change the film format. Okay, TIFF is good, as it's lossless. For file name, sequential is good. It just numbers the scans for you. Then there's a template on how to name your files. Click to go. Scan progress is shown over here, 1 out of 12. Regardless of the order of the film, it goes by the order of the frames as you created them. Here are some scans. Let's open some. Nice. Almost no correction necessary. Let's take this one into Adobe Lightroom. This version of Lightroom is part of the Creative Cloud, not Lightroom Classic. Okay, we add one photo. That's it. you want to use this tool on the top right. Auto Adjust in Lightroom is incredibly clever. Usually out of the box, Auto just works. We can click this button and compare the picture before and after, before and after. Clearly, after is much better. With this curve, click about a third along the top and lift it up. Then click about a third down and move it down. Therefore, you create a very gentle S-curve. That usually looks quite a lot better in contrast and sharpness. Let's see before and after. Before and after. Don't you agree? After has a lot more life. We go down further and try some color correction to see what happens. For example, this is surely white paint on the boat, right? So we try automatic white balance. Click on this eyedropper, then we click somewhere on this supposedly white area to make it truly white. See what happens. That's not actually better. It's taken out the moodiness of the picture. I'll Ctrl Z and undo that action. These white areas also reflecting the water and the sky, so they may not be a good target. Another thing you can do is to find something that's gray, neutral gray, and choose that instead of white. So we'll choose one of these areas. That's concrete, right here. That's interesting. That might be the way to go. That's a bit more natural, isn't it? After that adjustment, we might go back and try the shadows a bit more. A little bit darker. Alright, that's a bit better. Maybe a little bit less exposure, considering that this was dusk. It was probably around 6:30 p.m. Okay, now that's looking a lot more moody. Why don't we accentuate this pink sky over here and the blue in the water? Go to this masking tool over here. Go for linear gradient. Click and drag this gradient like this. Okay, that's our mask. And within that mask alone, we can do something. For example, reduce the exposure to darken it and make it more pink. Okay, that's interesting. Then click Escape to get rid of the mask. It's quite an interesting adjustment. I'll experiment again. Bring this gradient a little bit lower so that darkening comes down a little bit. Then compare before and after. Now the water seems to have lost a little bit of its blueness. Is that a word? We'll fix that. We click plus here. That means it gives us another chance for linear gradient. This time we draw it from the bottom to the top. This time we change the temperature a little bit in the bluey direction. Nice. Click Escape to get out of this mask. Now let's compare before and after. Before, after. See the magic? Before, after. All the information was already in the scan. All we've done is adjust it to the reality of what was observed at the time of taking the picture. Now we get rid of a couple of these artifacts. Very few on the negative. Let me zoom in so we can see it properly. With this tool, again using scroll wheel, you can adjust the size of the target circle to the size of the artifact. So all you have to do is click on the artifact. It copies another section of the scene which could have been similar to that section, but without the artifact. I increase the size of this target a little bit. Okay, that's better. Another one. Good. Another one. It doesn't always get the right sample, so sometimes you have to adjust it by moving the copy location. So far, it's done an amazing job. This one is a bit bigger, so I make it a bit bigger. Done. For this one, I don't want to go for a very big circle. Instead, I make the circle smaller and paint over it like this. It picks up that entire shape and copies it from somewhere else. Good. Escape twice and all the markers disappear. Here's a beautiful clean pink sky. At the bottom there are no artifacts, and this turned out an amazingly lovely picture. It'll print beautifully. Next we export the file. It'll do the final rendering at the time of the export. Confirm the export. We go to the same folder and find the same file name with a date added to it. I'll open this one and anchor it to the left. Windows key and left arrow. This is the other one. Anchor to the right with Windows key and right arrow. Look at the comparison. What do you think? Before and after? Amazing transformation, right? Now, this is what was actually observed just 3 days ago at the time of taking the picture. This has all the information already in it, and the scanner has already picked it up without any adjustments within the SilverFast software. We've spent a little over an hour. We've got the satisfaction of starting from undeveloped film and ended up with this beautiful picture that can be printed quite large and look lovely. So what you waiting for? Get out there, get your vintage camera out of the bottom drawer, dust it off, take a picture with love and attention. Spend just 1 hour in the kitchen, develop it, then scan it and enjoy your achievement forever. See you in the camera reviews. Subscribe means thank you. This is a quick tutorial on how to use the development tank from Paterson. It comes in a few parts. That's the lid. This one is the second component, which is like a funnel. It has a particular profile over here and it fits into here. That's a light seal or light tight. So when this part is in, with or without the cap, light cannot go into it. Put this over here. Inside there's a core tube which allows you to pour chemicals through. 2 spiral spools are inside, held together by this ring. These are loose. They allow this ratchet action. If you twist one a bit more, it comes out. Now it has some grooves here. That allows for adjustment for different film sizes. You put it in there at the highest point and it gives you 120 film size. You rotate a bit more and go down, then it gives you 35mm film size. The task is to put the film inside this spiral in total darkness. You start from the flat side. You observe that on the other side there's a little ball bearing. You can see it here, right? A tiny ball bearing that grips the film's edge as it goes in. I'll show you how that works. Here's a test film roll. There are 2 possibilities. Option 1. You rewind the film in the camera but leave a little bit of the leader outside the cartridge. Then you cut the end of the film straight outside the darkroom because the rest of the film is safe inside. Then you feed just the beginning of the film leader into the spool. Option 2. Let's say the film has gone right inside the cartridge during the rewind. Get yourself a bottle opener. You can use this one from the kitchen, or if you want to feel better about it, you can get one of these which are designed for this purpose. On this side, you simply lift the lid up. Of course, you do this in total darkness. Let's say you've got the end of the film leader and you're in the darkroom. You've got scissors with you and you cut the end of it straight. With your finger, you feel this straight side of the spool rather than the angled side. Put the film through there, ideally wearing latex gloves so you can safely touch the film. Push it in. It goes past the ball bearing. It's a simple and clever device. It allows the film to go through in one direction but gives a bit of resistance in the other direction. There are 2 ways you can feed the film in. One is if you're wearing latex gloves, they grip the film very well. In fact, they don't want to let go. With these, you can just keep pushing the top side like that. Easy as pie. Just push it in and keep going. Easy. The second way is to use the ratchet action. The ball bearing does its job and it pushes the film in all the way to the middle. When you get to the end of the film, you have to cut it straight. You put it through the core tube. Put the other one through as well. Then put this ring on top. Close this top. At this point, it's light tight. This cap is not really necessary until you want to pour the chemicals in. Good luck. Subscribe means thank you.